Lynyrd Skynyrd was an iconic American rock band, best known for popularizing the Southern rock genre. The band was originally formed in 1964 in Jacksonville, Florida, under the name My Backyard. The founding members were singer and songwriter Ronnie Van Zant, guitarist Alan Collins and Gary Rossington, drummer Bob Burns, and bassist Larry Junstrom. They went through a few name changes, including the Noble Five and the 1%, before finally settling on Lynyrd Skynyrd in 1969. The name was a mocking tribute to their gym teacher at Robert E. Lee High School in Jacksonville, Florida, who was known for his strict policy against boys with long hair, a policy that often targeted the band members during their school days. The name Lynyrd Skynyrd was chosen as a playful jab at their former teacher, with a slight alteration in spelling. Their journey to stardom began with the release of their debut album, pronounced Lynyrd Skynyrd in 1973, which featured the hit song Freebird. The band's fame continued to grow with their second album, Second Helping, released in 1974. It included the iconic song Sweet Home Alabama, which solidified Lynyrd Skynyrd's status as Southern rock stalwarts. On October 20th, 1977, Lynyrd Skynyrd was skyrocketing to fame and had several new members at the start of a 3-month tour to promote their new album, Street Survivors. The current members at the time were Ronnie Van Zant, guitarist Steve Gaines, Alan Collins, and Gary Rossington, drummer Artemis Pyle, bassist Leon Wilkson, and keyboardist Billy Powell. The band also had 3 female backup singers known as the Honkettes, which included Leslie Hawkins, JoJo Billingsley, and Steve Gaines' sister, Cassie Gaines. The plane chosen for their tour was an old 1948 Convair CV-240, a twin-engine prop that had already racked up over 29,000 flight hours. The airplane was scheduled to fly them from Greenville, South Carolina to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, for a concert taking place the following night. A few months earlier, Aerosmith had considered chartering the same plane for their upcoming tour. But after thorough inspection and concerns over the pilot's drinking habits, Aerosmith's flight crew decided against using it for the band's travel. They deemed the plane and its crew below their safety standards. This decision most likely saved their lives. As they prepared to embark on the flight to Baton Rouge, several members of Lynyrd Skynyrd and their entourage were nervous about flying in the band's leased Convair 240 and had expressed reservations to the band leader, Ronnie Van Zant. But they had valid reasons because one day earlier, after a gig in Lakeland, Florida, the band flew to Greenville, South Carolina for a show on October 19, 1977. While en route, a 10-foot stream of sparks and flames erupted from the plane's right engine. Luckily, they arrived at their destination without any major issues. Now, they were being requested to board the same plane once again. This did not sit well with Cassie, a backup vocalist and sister of Steve Gaines, who was so fearful of the plane that she booked a commercial ticket for the next flight to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Their plan to find a different plane didn't sit well with Van Zant. Getting a new plane meant canceling tour dates, and that was out of the question. Ronnie brushed them off, reportedly saying just before boarding, "Hey, if the Lord wants you to die on this plane, when it's your time, it's your time. Let's go, man. We got a gig to do." This was coming from a man who claimed he'd never make it to the age of 30. The plane took off at 4:02 p.m. from Greenville, South Carolina, heading for Baton Rouge, Louisiana, with an estimated arrival time of 6:45 p.m. Pilot Walter McCreary notified the flight tower that they had roughly 5 hours of fuel on board, plenty for the flight. The plane took off smoothly and was soon high up in the air. That night, the first stretch of the 700-mile flight to Baton Rouge was smooth sailing. It was just a typical flight. Van Zant took a nap in the aisle, huddled up with a pillow, fast asleep, while the other passengers played poker. But just a couple of hours later, halfway through the flight when the plane was over Mississippi, the pilots made the startling realization that the craft was insufficiently fueled for the voyage. Pilot Walter McCreary contacted the Air Traffic Control Center in Houston, saying they were out of fuel. They attempted to reroute to the closest airport, Macomb Pike Airport, just a couple of miles outside Macomb, Mississippi. The pilots were horrified when they figured out they lacked even the sufficient fuel to make it there. They began looking at options for an emergency landing. As those on board began preparing for what that might mean, Lynyrd Skynyrd drummer Artemis Pyle, who had served in the Marines as an aviation electronics technician and had some pilot experience, sprang into action. He went back and forth from the cockpit to the cabin, talking to the pilots, telling everybody to put out their cigarettes, turn off any lights, and conserve any power they had. 10 minutes later, the plane began to fall 6,000 feet out of the sky. The pilots attempted an emergency landing in a heavily forested area 5 miles northeast of Galesburg, Mississippi. But the plane's landing gear caught the top of some pine trees, which caused the aircraft to go into a nosedive towards the ground. The Mississippi pine trees, which were 3 feet thick, tore the plane, which was descending at a rate of 200 miles per hour, completely apart in 10 to 12 seconds. Singer Ronnie Van Zant, guitarist Steve Gaines, backup vocalist Cassie Gaines, assistant road manager Dean Kilpatrick, pilot Walter McCreary, and co-pilot William Gray were killed on impact. Van Zant died from blunt force trauma to the head caused by flying equipment inside the plane. He had a quarter-sized bruise on one of his temples. According to Artemis Pyle, one of the pilots was decapitated. Out of the 26 passengers that were on board, 6 died, and the other 20 passengers were all injured. The survivors sustained severe injuries, including guitarist Alan Collins, who suffered a broken neck and arm injuries, and bassist Leon Wilkeson, who had severe injuries including a broken arm and internal injuries. Gary Rossington suffered broken bones in his arms and legs. Backup singer Leslie Hawkins sustained a concussion, cervical fractures, and facial injuries. Keyboardist Billy Powell suffered facial lacerations. Billy Powell told the Orlando Sentinel,
"All I saw was treetops. I looked out my window. I was in the middle of the airplane on the right wing. I tried to get close to the back of the airplane as possible, but I got in the middle of the airplane on the right wing, and all I saw was treetops. And at first it wasn't so bad, but then when it hit the middle of the trees, it was horrible. It's an experience nobody wants to ever experience. Never."
In an ironic twist, the lack of fuel that caused the crash ended up saving many lives, as the plane would have otherwise exploded into flames upon impact. Crew members and injured drummer Artemis Pyle sought help, encountering Johnny Mote, who mistook them for fugitives and fired a warning shot, grazing Pyle in the left shoulder, but he was not seriously injured. Realizing the error, Mote assisted the injured until first responders arrived and transported the victims to a medical center. Soon after, a lengthy investigation, the NTSB report on the Lynyrd Skynyrd plane crash in 1977, concluded that the probable cause of the accident was both engines of N55VM ceased to produce power because the aircraft's usable fuel supply was exhausted. The crew failed to monitor adequately the fuel flow, en route fuel consumption, and fuel quantity gauges. The crew failed to take appropriate pre-flight and maintenance action to assure an adequate fuel supply for the flight. The crew operated the aircraft for an indeterminate amount of time before the accident with the right engine's mixture control in the auto-rich position. After the loss of founder and lead singer Ronnie Van Zant and other band members in a plane crash in 1977, Lynyrd Skynyrd disbanded. But a decade later, in 1987, the surviving members of the band reunited. The band reformed, joined by former guitarist Ed King, with Ronnie Van Zant's brother, Johnny Van Zant, taking over as lead singer. However, there would still be more tragedies. Collins, who was left paraplegic after a motorcycle accident in 1986, succumbed to pneumonia in 1990. Wilkeson was found dead in his hotel room in 2001, and in 2009, Billy Powell died of a heart attack. On March 5, 2023, Gary Rossington, the last original member of Lynyrd Skynyrd, died at age 71. Rossington was a guitarist and one of the band's founding members. He had struggled with health issues for several years, including a recent heart attack that forced him to miss the band's final tour. Despite the numerous tragedies, Lynyrd Skynyrd's music continues to resonate with fans around the world. The band's legacy is also recognized by their induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2006.